Okay, well, welcome everyone to the August 18th Conservation Board meeting. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Just two agenda items, one project to be reviewed and then approval of the August 4th minutes. So we'll start right with the one project, Woods of Valentine, section 2 through 4. A project we're familiar with on High Point Drive. Applicant is requesting final approval for 71 for sale townhouse units and one 4-story apartment building with 100 units within sections 2 through 4. This will also include two homeowners association lots for this project. You have James Friedegos here. If you want to take some time and run us through the project with maybe highlight any changes and updates since we last met.
Absolutely. So I'm James Kritikos. I'm with BME Associates. So this is the final subdivision application that we just submitted after getting the preliminary plans approved a couple months ago. It's extremely consistent with what you guys saw before. If anything, it's just incorporating planning board comments, other agency comments, review comments, things of that nature. I would say that the main thing that we added with the last plan set easements to be created and abandoned now that we've got through engineering design with preliminary with town, made in all the existing and proposed easements. I think I'll cover a bit of the conservation stuff with you guys in a second. But first, what I want to do is, I think we last met specifically at the board, I think on 2/17. I have the meeting minutes from that meeting. Since then, you guys were involved, I think, with first site walk that we did with some of the planning board members. I don't think you came to the secondary one with a couple of them and some other town staff.
We went to one maybe like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
8 weeks ago.
I think it was a good one you guys were at. We went to a secondary one for review stuff after we had done some stakeout for the buildings in section 4 near the neighbor's house where we're spending a bit of time. And that was really just to kind of review his encroachments and talk about the remedies for that. But in terms of this board's review, I don't think that has much bearing.
Okay.
But so I just wanted to kind of run through your guys' comments from the last time and just kind of touch on how we've addressed all of those. So the conservation easements were the first thing. I'll touch on that second. The second one had to do with grading, clearing, stabilization measures. So all that's kind of now included on the plans in detail. All the steep slopes are all erosion blankets, steep slope mix, to ensure that there's a sequence of construction. We'll be kind of moving through phases. We do have to do cuts in two of the sections and fills in two of the other ones. We're going to be cutting down the townhouse sections and then fills go to the other two sections. All four kind of balance. So we're moving some dirt, interphase, but not planning to take any off or into the site. So we do expect to be close to a balance. Third comment you guys had to do with the extent of tree clearing and tree protection measures. So that will be basically staked out prior to any clearing, mark clearly what's going to be saved, what's going to be removed. If we have some sensitive areas, probably along the neighbor and stuff, we're trying to save some trees, maybe we'll utilize some more construction fencing. But as of now, a lot of the clearing in phases 1 and 3 have already been completed. Prior activities on the site, so we're really just clearing at the top of the hills again for the townhouses, just kind of trimming back some of those areas. So access to those areas are already created for the most part, so we don't really anticipate any additional clearing or things of that nature that would cause an issue. The fourth comment you guys had to do with native plant species, landscaping plans by prepared using plant guides. We've already got our final review from the landscape consultant. He's just asking for some more trees in the fronts of the townhouses currently. Fifth thing had to do with the northern long-eared bat. I just double checked again this morning. That's still not triggered at the site. That was something that was back from 2005, 2006 when we started the overall project. That was something that came up all the time.
What was it?
The northern long-eared bat, the endangered bat. That it's just not applicable anymore because they're doing so well. So they've a lot of the areas have been pulled off that time frame clearly. Number 6 I had was about the 50% open space. So this project is part of the High Point PDD. That has about a 70% open space across all of the areas. The Woods of Valentine lot itself is just shy of 80%, like 79.5. So we're well above that 50% threshold. And then still are gonna have about a little over 10 to 11 acres of conservation easements that are gonna be in the site. Number 7, comments from you had to do with HOA, the long-term maintenance setup. So we've really tried to get most of the conservation easements inside the lands to remain that will be under the applicant's control, so the apartment building, the section 1, and all of the main bodies, again, just to make sure that they have flexibility in developing the trails and working with tree hiking and stuff like that, that's not gonna act. 8 had to do with Victor hiking trails, which we've been working with them. We've had a site walk with them to map some of the trails in the main conservation easement loop to the west side of High Point Drive, west of section 1. So that's in progress. I think they actually may have flagged out some of the routes they want to take. And then they might be getting into doing some tree planting selection. That easement's already set up in place, has the ability written into it to allow trails and things, so. And then the last question had to do with proximity to the neighbor. Again, the board's pretty, it's one of their main items that we're gonna be talking about at the planning board meeting next week. Providing quite a bit of screening, fence, landscaping. The current plan actually is proposing to subdivide out 1/10 of an acre and give it to them.
Is that where the well is?
Yeah, it has to do
Okay.
with where his shed is completely encroached on our property, his driveway is about a 6-foot encroachment, his well is around 35 feet into our property. We're subdividing out as much of that as we can, we're still giving him easement over well. We move the subdivide further, we have issues with setback into our own property, and because it's a PDD, we're not gonna get a variance, so there's a bunch of.
Is that why you can't put the conservation easement along that edge there? Is that, I guess the well, the shed and all that?
Yes, I haven't proposed one there, probably for that reason. I mean, now we're subdividing it out. I mean. I don't have an issue with doing that. I just don't know that it's. You know, if I'm gonna add more restriction to him, we're already talking about going back. So I don't wanna like restrict his use of that. Little piece if he wants to get in there and do some plantings, more screening,
It makes
build a
sense.
fence out, so.
No, you guys are gonna add some landscaping in there, so.
Correct. So those are the questions from last time. So I think what I want to do is just kind of cover conservation easements. So if you want to flip back to the first one with the aerial. So this is the site today. So the blue outline is our total Woods at the Allentown property. You do have High Point Drive right away bisecting the properties. So I highlighted all the easements I think are relevant. I didn't include some of the little storm sewer, water main, and RG&E easements and things of that nature. So I'll start at the bottom. The big pink areas down there, those are the existing big conservation easements that are in place. We're not touching those. Those sit alone in their own easement document. We don't need to mess with that at all. The yellow easement down in the bottom right, as well as kind of the northern part of High Point Drive, those are all drainage and utility easements that are existing to the town. We're not touching any of those. They are the two kind of left ones that kind of are just north and south on top. Those are for the stormwater pond. And then the one to the right had to do with where we put an easement in place a long time ago as part of wetland mitigation work that we did when we filled into section 3, and this was when High Point Drive was constructed. So this mitigation's been done and in place and completed for I think over 5 years now. That drainage easement is gonna just stay in place, and then there is a little conservation easement around wetland mitigation part itself inside that drainage easement. Again, that's gonna stay. So as we get up to the northern part here, the 3 red small easements, those are just old storm sewer or water main easements from the 2006 layout. So this is a long time ago when this was originally subdivided. This was actually townhouses originally. And so some of those were created. Again, that's where some of the green conservation easements are also created. So the 4 kind of green conservation easements there at the northern and eastern portion of the site, those are what we are proposing to just abandon, and then we're gonna recreate. So if you go flip to the next page. So the green here is what we're gonna create. We're basically putting these back in the exact same spaces. The one that's kind of along the southeastern property line is the exact same. We are not going anywhere near that. And then the other 3 are basically just fit back into the development based around the limits of disturbance where we're clearing trees and where we're bringing up roads and utilities based on the final design. Then we've also added one additional conservation easement all the way over on the western side, just to make sure that those trees between the back of those townhouses stay between, you know, the neighbor there and there. And that's over the minimum 10,000 square feet, I believe, of area. So we thought that that was an appropriate place to do that. And then we have the kind of the light red areas. Those are all just either new utility and access easements or additional drainage area easements for the pond expansion that we're doing. In terms of total area, we are going from 10.9 acres down to 10.75 acres. We're losing 0.15 acres of conservation easement. We could force it back in, but this is kind of where the trees all ended up. So this is what made sense with still kind of keeping with our slope design without getting anything steeper and doing that. And we felt that 1% reduction was kind of minor in the 80% green space, you know, through High Point PDD and, or I mean, 80% on this property itself. So those are really the big
What's that
changes.
red, like just west of the yellow?
That is we're doing the pond's getting a little bit bigger. So originally when the pond was built,
So it's an extension of that yellow.
yeah, we're basically digging out that's gonna be a new drainage and utility easement to the town.
How many more of the runoff?
When the pond was originally built, the northwest portion of the project was not part of this property. When we went through the PDD amendments and rezoning back in 2018, when the Rinaldis were involved with this, they acquired that land that used to be part of the Forest Park PDD, that we rezoned it into this property. So that additional development there is now going to that stormwater facility. It's actually an infiltration basin, so we're just gonna basically dig it back out a little bit along, you know, right now it's going up the slope. We're just gonna kind of dig it out and then level it off. Just basically expand the capacity of it, make sure that it can continue to detain enough of the water so it infiltrates and then gets into the ground. And we've got, you know, very sandy type soils out here, so that infiltration basin has been working well for, I think it's been in place for almost 15 years now.
Any markings on the easements? Other than, I mean, obviously there's that set of trees on the west side. Yes.
I haven't proposed any like markings at this point. I mean, obviously, we're open to discussions on it. You know, I think there definitely probably is some appropriate places to put some markings.
Yeah,
I would say generally with like residential, just homes, not townhouses, there's more ability to disrupt the easements, but it wouldn't hurt, I think, in this case. Just if some residents are just moseying around and out and about down there, just like placards or whatever.
yeah, it's a code requirement, so they'll have to, and you know, maybe the eastern edge of the wetland area. You know, normally we give the recommendation, try to keep, you know, as many straight lines as possible, because every time there's a change in the angle, it's required to be marked. So that wetland, eastern edge of the wetland may be difficult. Yeah, so just, you know, recommendation if, or you may find yourself with 75 placards along there.
Yeah, I think
You know.
from that one, we just actually mimic the exact bounds of what it
Sure.
was before.
Yeah.
But we can certainly straighten that out. So.
The natural resource, conservation easements? What types, I guess, are you looking at?
I believe we're just trying to look at putting them back into a similar form. Basically, you know, keeping the woods there. We can obviously go in and clear out dead brushes and trees, and then we'd like to have the ability to go and put trails in similar to what
Like
we're doing.
specific?
I think that's probably most appropriate. The old language, the old easements, there's some language that, you know, essentially we don't use those anymore, and for good reason allowed a sidewalk to be put there and things like that.
Sure, and that was my recommendation and request to the town board, is that we just abandon the 4 up here because they are all in the same easement document. The other conservation easements are not in that, so we can just
Yeah,
delete that whole one and then just remake a new one for this northern area. And we can write the language, you know, however is appropriate.
And so I think the big things, or the thing to be mindful of is the hiking trails, like, you know, allowing what Victor Hiking Trails intends to do to be allowed in the language. Now, would it, yes, of the, it's 1, 2, 3, 5 green easement areas, which is Victor Hiking Trails proposing to have trails through?
So as of right now, the only places we're actually looking to do trails is down through the purple. lavender
Okay.
area.
Oh,
Like
gotcha.
in the middle loop. And that easement's already set up for it. We've
Okay.
already reviewed that language. We don't need to make any modifications.
Got
It's more of a, if they wanna do expansions in the future, you know, we wanna just make sure that we have the ability to do that without having to go through the town board and modifying the language
Right.
and stuff like that. They've been talking about making connections to the east and to the north, but there's no other trails there for them to connect to, so it's more of a big picture thing. There is some trails that run off to the power lines and stuff down to the west of the site, so that's where they might be, you know, look at bringing a loop up through there and maybe looping something through the wetland, or
Sure.
doing a boardwalk or you know, something of that nature, but as of right now, there are no plans. It would probably be these two if they wanna, you know, do the next level of the biking trails that they're planning to do. The lavender areas.
Yeah.
So site specific, makes sense.
We do site specific. What about that spot up top west? You know what I mean? I don't know if that's grass right now. That continue to be mowed or just,
No, it's all woods. That's gonna stay.
Oh,
That's gonna stay
good.
woods. And because of the way because of the way the HOA lands are gonna be too, their HOA property is gonna be the north and northeast and northwest corners of the property. We don't know if we're gonna bring trails through there. I mean, we weren't planning on that. We're not, the HOA doesn't believe has any language. There's gonna be sidewalks up through there and, you know, and access points up along the roads for them to kind of get down along the right of ways. So there's still gonna be walkability. I just don't think they're gonna bring the, you know, part of the, what's the trail network from here? Yeah, the Auburn trails, yeah, basically make connections to that, so you know, have public access through that. However, the lavender one will
Yeah.
be, yeah, I mean, we're doing parking area and stuff in section 1,
got it.
so.
With the wetlands, you know, I don't imagine you'd be able to put a trail through there.
There's certain requirements to do that. You're allowed to do like boardwalks. You can drive posts as long as you're not doing fill. And you can make natural surface trails and things as long as you're not bringing in fill, or you can go through a permitting process and
Impervious, so the water goes through, right?
yeah, you can basically bring a vehicle through there and like cut a natural surface trailer, just trying to compact something, move the brush out and like
Okay.
create something in there. As long as you're not, you know, filling or removing, you know, ripping stumps. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff in wetlands, surprisingly. The conservation easement would probably restrict us a little bit more.
Okay,
From doing
I just
something.
assumed would be the opposite. And is, how wet is that wetland area?
So the main part of it, that's kind of just northwest of that pond gets very wet because a lot of the drainage north of the site all funnels down into this area. And then it goes through a big culvert that's below the north, the section 2 and 3 entrance, and then goes into that constructed wetland, and then that is what all flows south through Francis Rose farm property, and then gets south, and then everything kind of flows down toward around Quake Creek.
Okay.
So that does get hit with a lot of water. So there's definitely gonna be limitations on what you could do. The upland areas, you know, kind of right behind the apartment building and, you know, up behind those townhomes on the section 4 area, you can maybe do something. But again, there's some slopes in there. It's why it's gonna be kind of site specific. Once we get, you know, Victor hiking trails in there to see if they want to even do something. So really it's just leaving us the flexibility.
And so thought being the same language for all 5 easements?
I think to just kind of keep it simple, like I said, most of that property on those conservation easements is not within the HOA areas. So. I think just kind of leaving consistent language will make it simple.
It's easiest to
For
find,
it,
yeah.
And because we want to preserve all the trees in all those areas anyway, so I think we're preserving it, we're gonna. You know. Leave the ability to do maintenance on it and then put some trails in and then. Other specifics we can obviously talk about.
What about that one section, the green section, the furthest south? Is there, that's gotta be, there's no trees down there, right?
Yeah, there's trees there, that easement kind of overlaps a little bit with NIPA's access easement, so I think they actually. Took down a couple trees right along the edge of that.
Okay.
But we still want to put that in a conservation easement, because that maintaining that there provides some buffering.
Yeah.
For views coming up the hill, just
Okay.
ensures that we've got additional trees.
I wasn't sure.
It's existing today, so we're just looking to replace it in kind.
Okay. That's good.
It's kind of the. Collateral damage of just deleting all the other ones, since that's the leftover one in the same easement document. Just. That's why we said it just probably makes sense to just erase the whole document versus we're gonna strike these.
Sure.
3 conservation easements and this one, and then we're still remaking another one.
Do we have any comments?
Other than maybe try to straighten out to Tim's point, that one
yeah.
easement in the northern section, if possible, just to limit your amount of markers. It's not possible, that's not required, but
What are you guys doing for markers currently?
a 4x4 placard.
Yeah. You know,
Every-
I don't.
oh, sorry.
it does allow for, you can use, kind of like landscaping rocks or things like that if you're trying to keep a more natural feel. There's some sort of pre-approved markers that you're allowed to use, but the standard is just the post with it, yeah.
So that was the trick. You guys allowed us to put them on rocks or trees or something if we wanted to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was looking through. Maybe it's just not on the laptop, but in the I wanted to run through the site specific language and just see if there's yeah, maybe it's in there. Um,
Amber said she put a folder on this. The laptop.
Oh.
maybe, possibly.
I saw it in the,
I thought she said.
or just,
We have probably right here. There's a resource. Specific restriction, that's probably it. Okay, so. It's a natural condition, no changes to the topography. Can't store, dump, or dispose any debris in the easement area, no storage. Vehicles, trailers, blah, blah, blah. No landscaping. Other than impervious surfaces. No structures. Sides over sides, there's no clearing of brush with the exception of. Clearing of brush to the extent necessary to establish or maintain unimproved pervious footpaths, clearing of brush. So to install lawns, landscaping, so.
That's what they're doing to do something. They're not putting in tar trail or anything. They're just clearing the paths because it's like a hiking / biking.
Okay,
So
we'll, I don't know if you, yeah, all right.
so that would be fine. Like I said, we're not planning on paving it. So even if we want to do some kind of stone dust or something, we
Yeah.
can make arguments around that.
And then. I guess presumably as well, so you can remove deadfalls just to keep those paths. Walkable. The livestock, okay. Allowing the mowing. No motorized vehicles. Parker. Yeah, I wanted to read through it, just thinking through with the wetlands and also there are some steep slopes. Is there anything that could be allowed that wouldn't necessarily want to be done in wetlands or steep slopes, but think through that, I think anything jumped out at me. Yes, so sounds like we'd be comfortable with site specific. And yeah, we noted the couple, so 10A, 11A. I think that's it as far as the selections, because would there be any need for mowing?
I think so.
Okay,
Beyond any sort of just like trail maintenance, if they're just like cutting the vegetation back along path, but that would be
yes,
about it.
so
I mean, these woods don't have a lot of undergrowth on them.
yeah,
Like, they're pretty walkable, and I know when they're doing the trails, at least for section one, they're working around all the trees, they're just like, we're gonna move the trail to avoid cutting any big trees down. So they would assumably do the same thing in that section.
okay, okay, yeah, I don't have any other comments or questions, Andrew? Okay, when you go before the planning board, is that on the agenda?
We're on the planning board next Tuesday. So I'm assuming we'll be there for a couple meetings. See if you guys think of anything else. Send it down.
Okay, yeah, we'll
So,
write up our comments to the planning board by next Tuesday. Alright,
of course,
any comment from the public?
I just was, are the roads and the HOA dedicated roads or? Some,
no, everything is gonna be privately owned with access easements to the town. So the High Point Drive is the only actual town.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you, James.
see you guys soon for something else, I'm sure.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Me too.
Thanks.
okay,
So our only other agenda item is well, the August 4th, 2026. That's we were all here for that one.
Yep.
I reviewed them. There's one minor comment I had that Amber addressed. Updates required by you guys?
On my end.
Nope. Second, right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. August 4th, 2026 meeting minutes are approved. Anything else from the public you feel like mentioning or noting? Alright, then we will adjourn the meeting exactly at 7:00 PM.
good work. Good week.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you, thank you.
See you all.